Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FCBDU podcast, your backstage pass to the magical world of Fat Chance Belly Dance style. I'm your host, DeAnna, and I invite you to join me along with a variety of special guests and experts as we explore the beauty, intricacies, and lifestyle topics of this captivating dance style. Grab a comfortable seat, tune in, and let's embark on a journey through the rhythms, movements, and history that make Fat Chance Belly Dance style an enchanting experience like no other. In part 3 of this series, Lacey and I discuss how to create successful goals. Specifically, we'll look at the concept and acronym of SMART goals. Lacey will also get into the types of time we should be investing in ourselves and in our goals. In this episode, we'll also incorporate listeners' examples and we'll help transform their goals into actual achievable plans. So grab your goal list and let's keep working on making your dreams a reality. We know what makes goals successful, like the mindset shift, how you're looking at things, why you're looking at them the way that you're looking at them, why you're setting the ones that you're setting, and how to verbalize them, right? Or write them down. How are you going to think about them? Now we're getting into how do we actually create the goals? How do we actually set the goals? And this takes us to our next acronym, which is, and a lot of you may have heard this before, but it's the concept of SMART goals. And this makes me, this is the way that I have found that my goals are the most successful. SMART, the S stands for specific. The M stands for measurable. The A is achievable. We're going to go through all of these. The R is relevant. And the T is time bound or timeliness. So what I mean by S for specific, be specific with your plan. So if you say, I want to eat healthier, right? So now we know it's not, I want to get rid of junk food. It's, I want to eat healthier. Okay.
More specific.
What do you want to do? I want to eat more vegetables. I want to eat only organic food. I want to incorporate this into my diet. You got to get it more specific. Yeah. So if it's like, I used an example in my notes, I want to be more flexible. Okay. What does that mean? Right. You know, it's like, okay, right. I'm going to start a home yoga practice 3 times a week, you know, that kind of thing. So how can you make it more specific? So
what
Natty
do you really
says,
want?
What do you really want? Natty says, I need to, learn how to play the finger cymbals more, right? Okay. So you're going to be specific. I want to incorporate a finger cymbal practice into my twice a week routine. Right? So being more specific. Lacey says, I want to declutter. Or no. She says, I want to organize. I want to organize. Okay. What do you want to organize? Is it your entire apartment? Is it like one room at a time? Is it your living room? Is it like just the papers, like the magazines or the papers?
Right.
Is there something specific that you need to organize? Because if you're just like, I need to organize, you're like, what? You're going to organize your drawers. You're going to organize your closets. Like, what is it? You know, so have it specific.
I feel like goals, your why and your values change over time. And the way that because you change over time, and to give yourself permission to change is often manifested in your space. And we hang on to things because it was important to us at one point. But if it is no longer important to you, that weird struggle you're having is with your own growth, because you're hanging on to it because it was important. Well, I used to love this hip scarf. Well, I love it. Well, but you don't love it now. And that's okay. But if you get rid of it, you're not getting rid of your love for dance. You just don't like the hip scarf anymore. It's fine. I really I have like a whole mindset on possession of things and the things we attach to things, and your feelings get attached to stuff. But instead of being overwhelmed by that concept, I think it's this great opportunity to learn about you, because you've attached the whole idea of, does it bring joy, and thanking things and stuff. Like, the way that I interpret that is basically it's because your energy, your essence is attached to the things that you fill your space with. So at one point, you know, I used to like, I don't know, or I didn't like cherries. Used to hate them. Don't know why. Thought they were gross. I love them now. Love cherries now. Am I not going to get them because I used to not like them? That's ludicrous, right? But if we just flip that, right? So I used to love cherries, but I don't like them anymore. Am I going to still buy them?
Right.
If you put it that way, then, right? So give yourself the space to allow your goal to happen as well, to make room. Right. Mm-hmm. And often we're using it as this example in organizing, right? But I feel like it comes up a lot, right? Where we have this thing that we want, but yet, and this has to do with all the things we talked about, be realistic, nurturing, all of those kinds of ideas have a lot to do with the stuff that we've filled our life with, be that physical, be that energy, being mindset, all of these things. But are they still serving the person you are now? And more specifically, the person you're trying to get to? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like that's the hard work, but it doesn't have to be until you start looking around. You're like, I used to love this thing. I don't love it anymore. Who's going to love it? Who you want to love it? Here you go. Right. And the freedom that you can feel from that, I think, is really exciting. So the example is the tangible thing, but it can be a lot of other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, and so to kind of put that in the thing, like all of a sudden Lacey's, goal was I want to declutter. 2, I want to organize my space by identifying things that I'm going to give away. Ha-ha! Yeah. Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So, all right. This like touches home because I have been working through my garage, and like it was like I want to get rid of stuff, but it was more of I want to create space for Mark's kitchen stuff, you know, to go out there. So it was like that mindset shift. So I didn't feel bad about getting rid of stuff, because I was like, is this more important to me than Mark having the space that he wants and loves? And so if not, then it would go. So the next one is a measurable, right? And this is where you kind of start getting your specific. Now it's like, can it be measurable? So this is where, let's see, again, I use the kind of like the yoga thing, right? So I want to be more flexible. Okay, well, let's back up. How to make it more specific. I'm going to do yoga at home 3 times a week. Okay, that's specific. Now, can you make it measurable? I'm going to do yoga at home 3 times a week for 20 minutes. So let's use Natty's example. I want to get better at finger symbols. Okay, let's make that more specific. I am going to practice finger symbols 3 times a week. Okay, now let's make it a little measurable. I'm going to practice finger symbols for 10 minutes for 3 days a week for 10 minutes each of those days. Right? So you've got to make it measurable. And then the next letter in our acronym is A, and this is for achievable. And this kind of goes into like the realistic aspect. Like, do you have to be Wonder Woman in order to make this happen? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to have to change your entire life around this thing to make it work? So we were just talking about working out. Like, okay, I want to go to the gym. Okay, let me be specific. I want to go to the gym every day for 1 hour every day. Okay.
That ain't gonna happen.
Right? It's like that whole
I want to be that girl, but I'm not gonna be.
It's the whole realistic, achievable thing, right? Well, you need to have rest days, and you need to take into consideration that are you already overwhelmed with the time that you have in the day? How are you going to now find another hour of your day, right? So it has to be achievable.
Yep. Yeah.
These lofty goals, and like, I'm going to do this thing one day, and then and so, that one I think is pretty, we kind of talked about that one a whole bunch.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's really important to sit with that one, because like in this moment, in this conversation, it feels really easy, but I think that a lot of times when we pick something that we want, we're not thinking about the achievability, the attainability, the realisticness of that goal. So I think to really ask yourself the hard questions with it, for sure.
I agree. And I agree with that. And so the next one is, again, it just kind of goes back to some of the things that we've been talking about, but it's relevant. And this goes back to the why. Is it relevant in this stage of your life or in this current situation? So Lacey, you were talking about how, like, is it even what I want? So maybe you've had this goal that you have, like, had on your mind for the last 5 years, and you just keep telling yourself you're going to do it, and then you sit down and you're like, okay, is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? And then you get to the relevant. You're like, this actually isn't what I want anymore. You know what I mean? And that can happen. So
absolutely, I've got a big one with my dance now. Like what I've been doing for the last 15 years is not going to be what I do now. And once I figured that out, I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, like now it's not what it was. So cool. Then now what is it? You know, kind of a thing. Yeah.
And that's going to be, right, a lot of like vulnerability and humbleness and honesty with yourself. Like for me, like at one point in time, my thing was I'm going to do splits because that means that my quads or my hip flexors are open and my glutes are strong and like all the things. And now I'm like, 43, that's not really relevant anymore. I don't care if I don't do the splits. I'm not going to be, it's not something that is going to make me feel any more important or great about myself. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's irrelevant anymore.
Relevant. Yeah, I love that.
And let some stuff go. Especially after the last few years, right? You're like, what is really important to you? I don't know if this has happened to y'all, but like, what is really important to me now versus 3 years ago is different.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's my answer when people ask, how are things? Different.
Exactly. Different.
Yeah.
And then the last letter, so we have specific, S, and then measurable, achievable, relevant, and here's where we have time bound. This is where we're putting a deadline on it. I am going to do yoga for 20 minutes at 3 times a week until March, and then I'm going to reevaluate it. So Lacey, you were just going through these types of things, right? Let's see what Heather says. Some say you can simplify it even more. Like I'm just going to put on my zilts every day and then build from there. Or if the goal is to walk for an hour, start with the goal of just putting on your shoes and build up from there. And that goes into the habits that we'll get to shortly. But yeah, absolutely, Heather, absolutely.
Yep.
And ties into what Lacey was saying. So Lacey, you were saying that you had some stuff specifically on time back.
So time is again, like I have all of these like from my childhood. So time and I have an interesting relationship, right? So growing up, my mom was very big on time. Like everything was get it done. Like you're 5 minutes late. Blah, blah, blah. So as an adult, I was like, I don't care. I don't wear a watch on purpose. Like I cannot be constricted by time. And then I did a whole choreography based on time because of the idea of time passing and how time is both real and not real. Like I have this whole epiphany around time. So what I found is the way that it interacts with goals was what I found when I was looking up research for our talk. So time can be separated into 4 sections of treasured time, investment time, mandatory time, and empty time. Yeah? So again, that's treasured, investment, mandatory, and empty. And the goal is to have most of your time be in treasured and investment and less of mandatory and empty. So what do we mean, right? So treasured time would be time with your loved ones, right? Time with your dog, time, because that's treasured time to me. Whatever time to dance, whatever you treasure, whatever time feels like it fills you up, that's your treasured time. Investment time is the time that you're investing in you, man. Like those are the things. So training, for example, right? So like when for example, I watched the playback because it was important to me and I was mad because I forgot it, but ask Carolina, like to me, that's investment time. Like that's me investing in getting information from source, doing the Boise workshop, that's investment time to me. That is time that is really valued, that I want to make sure that I make an effort for it. It could be whatever the goal is, right? The same thing of I want to work out or whatever. That's investment time in you, in your life, in the positivity. Mandatory is like, I gotta do the laundry and like dishes and pay bills. Like I can't not do those things, but it's mandatory time. But do I want my entire day to be filled with mandatory time obligations? right? So how can I get efficient in those mandatory time obligations so that I have more time for investment and treasured time, right? And then the final one is empty time. Hello, Facebook scroll. Hello, like getting lost on YouTube for hours. Right now, sometimes we all have to zone out, and I get that, but to have less and less empty time, right? How many times have you sat at the end of your day and gone, where did the day go? Where did the day go, right? I've done it sometimes and had to be real with myself on, most of the time I'm too hard on myself, but sometimes I'm like, well, you spent 3 hours watching TV, and I go, sure did, and that was great. Today, that was right? Sometimes that's my answer. And quite frankly, that's been my goal for the last week, is I've been running, and I was like, you know what? I did what my mandatory today, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch a couple episodes, and that is food time. That is treasure time to me. That is snuggle time with the dog, Alex sitting on the couch. That equals that. To someone else, that might be empty time, right? So again, this is a reiteration of like what is good for someone might be different for you, but having less and less empty and mandatory time so that you have more. So time, to wrap it up into how I struggle with time so much, is that I fought it so much, but at the end of the day, you have this space, right? Like however you want to look at time, and you really do get to choose how you spend a lot of it, right? Those mandatory times, that's what I love about this, is that so often I get feedback of like, well, I have the kids and I've got this and I've got that. You absolutely do. Like, I am not discounting any of that, right? But is there an opportunity, right? So I have a friend that's got 4 kids, bananas schedule, right? Like lunches, and it's after school, and it's the line and the stuff, right? But has managed to get organized and to really let those things only exist in the time that they require. They are their mandatory time, so that they do have time as a family to get together. Like my mind gets boggled with the way that family is able to still spend time together and go on vacation or what have you. And to me, that all just comes down to the way that they have organized their time and how they have put treasured time at the top, so that you are less burdened by time, right? So that you are able to see like, wow, like I do have an hour to invest in myself. I absolutely do, because I've organized my time and I've weeded out empty time, and I've cut back on the mandatory, or I've made sure that I'm not, okay, I've got to do the laundry. Well, all right, I folded some things. Okay, I got to do the dishes. Well, I'll just put on a video while right, like, are you getting the mandatory things done so that you have more time, or is it just magically taking up half your day, right? So yeah, I love that. I was really excited about that.
Yeah, that just blew my mind. I had not ever heard, this is our 3rd acronym of the day. I've never heard that before. Heather says, I have lots of empty time. That's, yeah, so that's the part that we don't want to have as much of. Well, I mean, maybe you do, but I don't want to have it.
Right, yeah, because that's why I said, like, sometimes, like, I feel like so to flip it on its end, like, I feel guilty, right? So that's my own personal thing, that if I'm not working, if I haven't achieved things in my day, that I wasted my day. Like, that's my own personal thing I've got to really work on. And it's like, right, but then I'm resentful because I haven't relaxed, because I didn't, right? So I realized that was all my fault. So I'm like, okay, well, you're doing it to yourself, Lacey, right? But why do I feel that way? So this was my own personal experience, right? And it was like, okay, the mandatory time was really key for me, because I had to figure out, what do I actually have to get done? Right. And for me, so a fun thing, right? So a sweet friend is getting married in January, and my super good friend is her mom. And they asked me to choreograph a flash mob for the wedding. Right. So, which is great. Like, well, who doesn't want to do that? Right. And, but it was like, I had dental work and I had stuff and I had forgotten, and I felt like a jackass and I hadn't done it and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this day, getting it done. Like, I had stuff and I scheduled out my week, and I was like, okay. And it just so happened that yesterday I had 3 things on the list of things to do. Getting that filmed and sent off was at the top of that list. So I had everything done by 1:00, and then I got to relax. So I felt like I got the things done that I needed needed to get done, so that way I was free enough to feel like then I could have the treasured time without feeling guilty. So I made sure that I checked those things off because they do need to get done, but I also made sure that I didn't feel it, like I didn't stop, I didn't like I was like, get it done, because then you'll have the rest of your day. You will have time, right? And that's always a thing for me. I'm like, I don't have enough time, or I don't. So create that time, like get in, get it done. And then I was able to chill, which was really, really nice.
I love that. There's a bot. I was sitting here trying to draw it out, and I don't remember what the name of it is, but there's a visual. This kind of, I guess, goes in more into when we get to tools, but there is a visual that's like a quadrant thing. And on one quadrant, it's like, important but not urgent, and then another one is important and urgent. And so anyways, like it's kind of like, where are you putting your time in?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like you want to work more in the important but not urgent, so that you're never working in the like, oh my god, everything's
right. With that, and see again, this might be habits. Are we starting to get there?
Not yet, but yeah, almost.
Then I'll wait. I'll wait. Because I think that's where this, because I have some notes on distractions.
Yeah, that comes into habits, I think.
Got it. Okay, then we'll wait.
Towards the end, it's kind of like all of those little things.
Cool.
So, so now you can kind of look at, so now I want everybody that's following along, whether you're sharing or not, because I know some of you maybe just kind of absorbing or thinking about it, or maybe have your goals and you're like, I'm the kind of person that doesn't share them. That's fine too. So now think about the goals that you've shared, and then how have you restructured them since we've had this conversation?
Yeah.
Join us in part 4 of this series as we share the tools we love and the habits to help you create your ultimate success.